Captain Lee Dong-woo stood on the bridge of the starship New Horizon and watched the stars through the main window. He had been in space for 20 years, but this moment felt different. Today, humanity might meet aliens for the first time. "Captain, we have something on the sensors," said Engineer Kim Tae-ho from his station. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. 3 ships, coming from the direction of the Kepler system. Lee Dong-woo walked over to look at the display screen. 3 bright dots moved slowly across the star map. They were big ships, much bigger than the New Horizon. His heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "Are they human ships?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "No, sir," Kim Tae-ho replied. "The design is completely different. The metal they use, the way they move through space, everything is new to us." Dr. Park So-young looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on life forms and had spent years studying what alien life might look like. "Captain, this is what we have been waiting for. First contact with another intelligent species." Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee walked onto the bridge. She was responsible for talking to other governments and making peace deals. If these aliens wanted to talk, she would be the one to speak for humanity. "What do we know about them?" Yoon Ji-hee asked. "Not much yet," Park So-young said. "But they are not shooting at us, which is a good sign." The alien ships came closer. On the main screen, Lee Dong-woo could see they had a strange beauty. The ships looked like they were grown rather than built, with smooth curves and flowing lines. They glowed with a soft blue light. "Captain," Kim Tae-ho said, "they are sending us a message." "Put it on the main speaker," Lee Dong-woo ordered. A new voice filled the bridge. It was clearly not human, with a musical quality that made it sound like singing, but somehow the words came through in perfect Korean. "Greetings, travelers of the void. I am Captain Morthek of the Velthari trading fleet. We mean no harm. We come in peace and friendship." The bridge went silent. Everyone looked at each other, with wide eyes. These were the first words ever spoken to humans by an alien. Lee Dong-woo cleared his throat. "This is Captain Lee Dong-woo of the human vessel New Horizon. We also come in peace. We are honored to meet you." "Humans," the alien voice repeated, as if testing the word. "We have not heard of your species before. You are new to the stars, yes?" "Yes," Lee Dong-woo replied. "This is our first journey beyond our home system." There was a pause. Then Captain Morthek spoke again, and his voice seemed different somehow. More careful. "We welcome all new species to the galaxy. Perhaps we can meet face to face? We have much to share." Dr. Park So-young quickly checked her readings. "Captain, their ships show no weapons that I can detect. Their technology seems more advanced than ours, but they appear peaceful." Yoon Ji-hee nodded. "This is exactly the kind of meeting we hoped for. A peaceful first contact." "Very well," Lee Dong-woo said into the communicator. "We would be honored to meet with you, Captain Morthek." "Excellent. We will move our ships closer and dock with yours. Do not be afraid of our appearance. We may look strange to you, but we are friends." An hour later, Lee Dong-woo and his team waited in the docking bay. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the first alien stepped through. Captain Morthek was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change color like an oil slick. He had 4 arms and large dark eyes that seemed very old and wise. When he smiled, his teeth were small and pointed, but the expression was clearly friendly. "Captain Lee Dong-woo," Morthek said, walking forward with his hands spread wide in a gesture of peace. "It is a great pleasure to meet you and your people." "The pleasure is ours," Lee Dong-woo replied, bowing slightly. Dr. Park So-young could barely contain her excitement. She was looking at the first alien anyone from Earth had ever seen. She noticed that Morthek moved with grace and seemed very comfortable in the artificial gravity of the human ship. "Your ship is well made," Morthek said, looking around. "Your people are skilled builders." "Thank you," Kim Tae-ho said proudly. "I helped design the engine systems myself." Morthek's eyes focused on Kim Tae-ho with sudden interest. "You build your own ships? That is impressive for such a young species." They moved to the conference room where Yoon Ji-hee had prepared a formal meeting space. Morthek brought 2 other Velthari with him. They all seemed friendly, but Park So-young noticed something odd. The aliens kept looking at the humans with expressions she could not quite understand. It was not fear, but something close to it. Respect, maybe, but mixed with worry. "Tell us about your people," Yunji said. "We know so little about life, beyond our world." "The Velthari are traders," Morthek explained. "We travel the galaxy, buying and selling goods, sharing knowledge between worlds. We have been doing this for thousands of years." "Thousands of years?" Li Dongwu asked. "How many other species are out there?" "Many hundreds," Morthek replied. "The galaxy is full of life. Most species are peaceful, like yours appears to be." "Appears to be?" Park So-young asked. "What do you mean by that?" Morthek hesitated for a moment. "Forgive me, it is just that, well, appearances can sometimes be deceiving. We have learned to be careful when meeting new species." "Have you had bad experiences with other species?" Yunji asked. "Not recently," Morthek said quickly. "Not for a very long time. The galaxy has been peaceful for many thousands of years." Kim Tae-ho leaned forward. "What kind of technology do your people have? Could you share some knowledge with us?" Again, Morthek seemed to hesitate. "Of course. We always share basic knowledge with new friends. But there are protocols we must follow. Old rules that keep everyone safe." "Protocols?" Li Dongwu asked. "Nothing to worry about," Morthek said with another smile. "Just standard procedures when meeting a new species. We must report your existence to the Galactic Council, get approval for deeper exchanges. Very routine." Dr. Park So-young made notes on her tablet. Something about the way Morthek spoke made her curious. The alien seemed eager to be friendly, but also nervous about something. "We would be happy to share our own knowledge," Yunji offered. "Perhaps we could start with basic cultural and scientific information." "Yes, that would be wonderful," Morthek agreed. "In fact, it would be very helpful if you could connect your computer systems with ours, just for simple data exchange." Kim Tae-ho looked at Captain Lee for permission. The captain nodded. "I can set up a basic connection," Kim Tae-ho said. "Nothing that would give access to our important systems, just enough to share information." "Perfect," Morthek said. "Our computer systems are very advanced. They can translate languages and share data very quickly." As Kim Tae-ho worked to connect the systems, the Velthari continued to talk with the humans. They shared stories about other worlds, descriptions of different alien species, and basic information about galactic trade routes. But Park So-young kept noticing small things. The way Morthek's eyes would narrow when Kim Tae-ho talked about human technology. How the other Velthari would glance at each other when Li Dongwu mentioned human history or achievements. It was as if they were checking facts against some kind of list. "There," Kim Tae-ho announced. "The connection is established. Our computers are now linked for basic data exchange." "Excellent," Morthek said. "This will help us learn about each other much faster." The computers began sharing information, languages, mathematics, basic science, cultural data. It was happening so fast that Kim Tae-ho had to watch his screens carefully to make sure everything was working properly. Then something strange happened. The alien computer system seemed to dig deeper into the human database than it should have been able to. Kim Tae-ho saw data flowing that he had not authorized for sharing. "Wait," he said, reaching for his controls. "Something is wrong with the connection." But it was too late. On Morthek's tablet, a bright red symbol appeared. The alien captain's face went completely white, and his 4 hands began to shake. "By the void," Morthek whispered. "It cannot be. After all these years..." "What is it?" Li Dongwu demanded. "What is wrong?" Morthek looked up at the humans with eyes full of terror. "You have triggered the Harbinger Protocol. May the stars help us all." The bridge of the New Horizon became very quiet. Captain Morthek stared at his tablet with wide, frightened eyes. The red symbol on his screen pulsed like a beating heart. "What is the Harbinger Protocol?" Captain Li Dongwu asked. His voice was calm, but his hand moved slowly toward the emergency alert button. Morthek did not answer right away. He touched a device on his wrist and spoke quickly in his own language. The musical sounds seemed urgent and worried. Dr. Park So-young watched, the alien captain carefully. Captain Morthek, please tell us what is happening. We want to understand. You do not understand, Morthek said, his voice shaking. None of you understand what you are. Engineer Kim Tae-ho looked at his computer screens. I am seeing strange activity from their ships. They are moving into a formation around us. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hye stepped forward with her hands raised in a peaceful gesture. Captain Morthek, we are friends. Whatever this protocol is, we can work together to solve any problems. Morthek laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Friends? You think we can be friends when you are... He stopped and looked at each human face. When you might be them. Them? Lee Dong-woo asked. Who are you talking about? The Silence Bringers, Morthek whispered. The species that almost destroyed everything. The humans looked at each other with confusion. None of them had ever heard this name before. I think you have made a mistake, Park So-young said gently. We are humans from Earth. We have never been to space before today. We could not have destroyed anything in the galaxy. That is what they would say, Morthek replied. That is exactly what they would say. Kim Tae-ho's computer made a warning sound. Captain, more ships are coming. Big ones. They will be here in less than an hour. Lee Dong-woo felt his stomach tighten. How many ships? At least 20. Maybe more. Morthek stood up slowly. Captain Lee Dong-woo, I must place you and your crew under protective custody. For the safety of the galaxy. Protective custody? Yoon Ji-hye asked. Are we prisoners? You are. Morthek struggled to find the right words. You are a potential threat that must be evaluated. Until we know for certain what you are, we cannot let you leave. Lee Dong-woo stepped closer to the alien captain. I need you to explain this clearly. What are the Silence Bringers? Why do you think we might be connected to them? Morthek looked out the window at the stars. 50,000 years ago, there was a species that looked very much like you. They had the same body shape, the same kind of minds. They seemed peaceful at first, just like you do now. What happened to them? Park So-young asked. They nearly ended everything, Morthek said quietly. Not with weapons or war, but with something much worse. They could think thoughts that other species could not survive. Kim Tae-ho frowned. That does not make sense. How can thoughts be dangerous? You do not understand because you have never seen it happen, Morthek explained. The Silence Bringers could create ideas so powerful, so complete, that they would destroy the minds of anyone who heard them. Entire civilizations would simply stop existing, not because they were killed, but because they forgot how to exist. The humans were silent for a long moment. That sounds like science fiction, Yoon Ji-hye said finally. I wish it were, Morthek replied. I have seen the dead worlds they left behind. Planets where cities still stand. But no one remembers who built them or why. Dr. Park So-young felt a chill run down her spine. What happened to these Silence Bringers? They vanished. One day they were spreading across the galaxy, and the next day they were gone. No one knows why or how, but before they left, they had destroyed almost half of all intelligent life. And you think we are them? Lee Dong-woo asked. The computer match is perfect, Morthek said, showing them his tablet. Your physical appearance, your brain patterns, even the way you organize your society, everything matches the ancient records. Kim Tae-ho looked at the data on the screen. It was written in alien symbols, but there were pictures that clearly showed human-like beings. This could be a coincidence. Evolution might create similar forms on different worlds. That is what we hope, Morthek said. That is why the Harbinger Protocol exists. When we find a species that matches the old records, we do not destroy them immediately. We test them first? Test them how? Yoon Ji-hye asked. The Galactic Council will decide. They have ways to determine if a species has the same dangerous abilities as the Silence Bringers. Park So-young studied the alien records more carefully. These descriptions of the Silence Bringers, what exactly could they do? Morthek hesitated. They could solve any problem, any puzzle, any question, any mystery. Their minds could understand things that other species could not even imagine. But every solution they found made the universe a little less stable. Less stable how? Kim Tae-ho asked. They would look at a star and find a better way for it to burn. They would study a planet and discover more efficient laws of physics. Everything they touched became more perfect, but also more fragile, and, eventually, reality itself began to crack under the weight of their improvements. Lee Dong-woo felt his hands growing cold. Are you saying they were too smart? I am saying they were smart in a way that the universe was not designed to handle, Morthek replied. And if you are them, if you have returned somehow, then we must be very careful about what we allow you to learn. The ship's communication system made a soft sound. Kim Tae-ho checked his instruments. The alien fleet has arrived. They are surrounding us completely. Through the window, the humans could see dozens of ships arranged in a perfect sphere around the new horizon. Each ship was different, representing a different alien species, but they all had weapons pointed inward. So many different types, Park So-young observed. How did they get here so quickly? The Harbinger Protocol is the highest priority alert in the galaxy, Morthek explained. When it is triggered, every nearby ship drops whatever they are doing and responds immediately. Because you are all so afraid of us, Yoon Ji-hee said. Because we are all afraid of what you might become, Morthek corrected. The species you met today, the Velthari, we are peaceful traders. But we remember the stories our grandparents told us. Stories of worlds where the sky itself forgot how to be blue, where mathematics stopped working, where thinking became dangerous. A new voice came through the ship's communication system. It was speaking in a different alien language, but the ship's computer translated it automatically. Human vessel, this is Admiral Kortham of the Galactic Defense Coalition. You will prepare to be boarded and escorted to the Council Station for evaluation. Do not attempt to resist or flee. Lee Dong-woo looked at his crew. Kim Tae-ho's face was pale. Park So-young was taking notes frantically. Yoon Ji-hye was trying to think of diplomatic solutions. What happens if we refuse? Lee Dong-woo asked Morthek. Then they will assume you are the silence bringers, and they will destroy your ship immediately. And if we cooperate, then you will be taken to the Council Station where the greatest minds in the galaxy will study you. If you pass their tests, you will be welcomed as a new member species. If you fail, if we fail. Morthek looked very sad. If you fail, they will make sure you can never become what the silence bringers were. They will limit your population, restrict your technology, and make certain you can never again threaten the stability of the universe. Dr. Park So-young looked up from her notes. Captain Morthek, these tests they want to give us, what do they involve? I do not know all the details, but I do know that they will want to see how you think, how you solve problems, how you react to knowledge. They will be looking for any sign that you have the same dangerous abilities. Kim Tae-ho laughed nervously. What if we do? What if humans really are good at solving problems? Then the galaxy will have to decide whether it is safer to help you control that ability or to make sure you never get the chance to use it. The communication system activated again. Human vessel, you have 2 minutes to respond. Will you come willingly, or must we use force? Captain Lee Dong-woo looked out at the alien fleet surrounding his ship. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than the New Horizon. Even if they wanted to fight, they would not survive long enough to send a warning back to Earth. We will cooperate, he said into the communicator. We will come with you to the Council Station. A wise choice, Admiral Kortham replied. Prepare your ship for escort formation. Do not deviate from the assigned course or attempt any unauthorized communications. As the alien fleet began to move, arranging themselves around the New Horizon, like guards around a prisoner, Park So-young continued studying the ancient records. Captain, she said quietly, I am finding some very disturbing information in these files. What kind of information? The descriptions of silence bringer behavior. They match human psychological patterns almost perfectly. Our curiosity, our need to understand and improve things, our ability to see patterns that others miss. Lee Dong-woo felt a heavy weight settling in his chest. Are you saying we might actually be dangerous? I am saying that if these records are accurate, then humans have exactly the kind of minds that once nearly destroyed the galaxy. And if that is true, then we are about to be judged by beings who have spent 50,000 years making sure nothing like the Silence Bringers ever happens again. The council station was the largest structure any human had ever seen. It stretched across space like a metal city, with towers that reached out in all directions. Lights flickered along its surface like stars, and ships moved around it like insects around a giant flower. "How big is it?" Engineer Kim Tae-ho asked as the New Horizon approached the docking bay. Captain Morthek, who had stayed with the humans during their journey, looked out the window. "The station is home to representatives from 847 different species. It has been growing for over 60,000 years. Dr. Park So-young stared at the massive structure. "And they built all of this just to talk to each other?" "They built it to prevent another catastrophe like the Silence Bringers," Morthek corrected. "The Council exists to keep the galaxy safe." Ambassador Yoon-ji-hai was thinking about the meeting ahead. "Who will we be speaking to? How many representatives?" "The full Council," Morthek replied. "This is too important for a small committee. Every major species will want to have their say about humanity's fate." Captain Lee Dong-woo felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "How many people are we representing? Just ourselves?" "You are representing your entire species," Morthek said quietly. "Every human who exists now, and every human who might exist in the future. The Council's decision will affect all of them." The ship docked with a soft thud. Through the airlock came beings unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. Some floated in the air like clouds of light. Others crawled on multiple legs. A few looked almost human, but with features that were clearly alien. "Welcome to Eternal Vigil," said a creature that seemed to be made of crystal. Its voice rang like music. "I am Escort Velandra. I will guide you to the council chamber." The humans followed Velandra through corridors filled with wonders. The walls showed pictures that moved and changed. The air smelled of flowers from 1,000 different worlds. Creatures from across the galaxy stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. "They all know why we are here," Park So-young observed. "Word travels fast when the Harbinger Protocol is triggered," Velandra explained. "This is the first time it has happened in over 20,000 years." They reached a massive door that opened silently. Inside was a chamber so large that the far wall was lost in shadows. Seats rose in circles around a central platform, and each seat held a different type of alien being. "So many," Yoon-ji-hai whispered. 847 voting members, Velandra said, plus observers from allied worlds. In the center of the chamber was a platform surrounded by a field of energy. When the humans stepped onto it, the energy formed a protective barrier around them. "For your safety," Velandra explained. "Some of our members communicate in ways that could be harmful to your species." A voice filled the chamber, coming from everywhere at once. It was deep and ancient, like the sound of mountains moving. "I am Council Prime Zeph-Hai. I have lived for 60,000 years and seen the rise and fall of 10,000 civilizations. Today, we face a question that has haunted the galaxy for 50 millennia. Have the Silence Bringers returned?" The chamber became completely silent. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on the 4 humans standing in the center. "Humans of Earth," Zeph-Hai continued, "you stand accused of being a species with the potential to destroy all intelligent life in the galaxy. How do you answer this charge?" Lee Dong-woo stepped forward. "We answer that we do not understand the charge. We are explorers and scientists, not destroyers. We came to space seeking friendship and knowledge." "That is exactly what the Silence Bringers said when they first appeared," called out a voice from the gallery. "They seemed peaceful and curious, just as you do now." Another voice joined in. "They also claimed to want friendship and knowledge. But every world they visited became a little less real, a little less stable." Admiral Kortham rose from his seat. He was a large being covered in armor that seemed to be alive. "Let us examine the evidence," he said. "Historian Velandra, present. The records." The crystal being moved to a podium in the center of the chamber. The air above her head began to glow and images appeared. They showed beings that looked exactly like humans, walking through cities on distant worlds. "These are the last known images of the Silence Bringers," Velandra said. "Notice the facial structure, the body proportions, the way they move. Compare them to our current subjects." More images appeared, showing the humans as they had looked on their ship. The similarity was impossible to ignore. Physical appearance can be misleading, Park So-young said. Evolution might create similar forms on different worlds. Perhaps, Velandra agreed. But there is more evidence. Observe the psychological profiles. New images filled the air, showing brain scans and behavioral patterns. The Silence Bringers showed exceptional pattern recognition, creative problem-solving abilities, and an almost compulsive need to understand and improve everything they encountered. Kim Tae-ho felt his stomach drop. Those descriptions fit human nature perfectly. Furthermore, Velandra continued, they showed remarkable adaptability, the ability to learn quickly from minimal information, and a tendency to find solutions that other species had never considered. These are not crimes, Yoon Ji-hee protested. These are the traits of any intelligent species. No, Zeph-hai said sadly. These are the traits of a species too intelligent for the universe to safely contain. A new voice spoke from the shadows. It sounded tired and very old. I am Archivist. Morden! I was alive when the Silence Bringers walked among us. I saw what they could do. The chamber grew even quieter. They did not mean to cause harm, Morden continued. They were genuinely kind and peaceful. But everywhere they went, they would notice small imperfections and try to fix them. They improved our mathematics, made our physics more efficient, solved problems we did not even know we had. That sounds helpful, Lee Dongwoo said. It was helpful at first, Morden replied. But the universe is not a machine that can be perfected. It is a living thing that depends on certain imperfections to remain stable. When the Silence Bringers fixed too many things, reality itself began to break down. Kim Tae-ho could not help himself. But how is that possible? How can solving problems be dangerous? The moment he asked the question, every alien in the chamber leaned forward. Several made sounds of alarm. There, Admiral Kortham said grimly. Did you see that? The automatic assumption that any problem can and should be solved. The immediate question about how to understand and fix things. That is exactly how the Silence Bringers thought. Park So-young realized what was happening. You are not just studying what we say. You are studying how we think. Correct, Zeph-hai confirmed. We are looking for the patterns of thought that made the Silence Bringers so dangerous. And if you find those patterns, Yoon Ji-hee asked, then we will have to make a very difficult decision, Zeph-hai replied. A new being stood up in the gallery. It looked like a tree made of metal, with leaves that glowed softly. I propose the standard test, it said. Give them access to our historical and scientific databases. If they are truly dangerous, they will not be able to resist trying to solve our oldest problems. And if they do try to solve them, Lee Dongwoo asked, then we will know that humanity has the same dangerous curiosity that nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. Admiral Kortham activated a control panel. Very well. Humans, you will be given access to selected information about galactic civilization. You will have 72 hours to study this information and demonstrate your intentions. What kind of demonstration? Park So-young asked. We will present you with several challenges. Scientific problems, mathematical puzzles, social issues that have puzzled us for thousands of years. If you ignore them and focus only on peaceful cooperation, you may pass the test. Kim Tae-ho understood the trap immediately. But if we try to solve the problems, then you will prove that humans have the same compulsive need to fix everything that made the Silence Bringers so dangerous. Yoon Ji-hee stepped forward. This test seems designed to make us fail. If we ignore problems that are presented to us, we appear uncaring. If we try to help, we appear dangerous. Welcome to the dilemma that has kept the galaxy safe for 50,000 years, Zeph-hai said. A truly safe species would not even notice that the problems existed. A dangerous species would not be able to resist trying to solve them. Velandra, approach the energy barrier around the humans. You will be given quarters on the station. The information will be made available to you shortly. We suggest you think very carefully about how you proceed. As the humans were led away from the council chamber, Park So-young whispered to her companions. We are in serious trouble. Everything they described about the Silence Bringers sounds like natural human behavior. So what do we do? Kim Tae-ho asked. I do not know, Lee Dong-woo admitted, but we have 72 hours to figure out how to prove that humanity deserves to survive. Behind them, the council continued to debate. Some voices called for immediate action against the potential threat. Others argued for more careful study. But all of them remembered the stories their ancestors had told about the species that had nearly ended everything. In their quarters, the humans sat in silence for a long time. Through the window, they could see the stars. Kim Tae-ho stared at the mathematical problem on his screen. It was beautiful and complex, like a puzzle made of numbers and symbols. His engineering mind wanted to solve it more than anything else in the world. Do not touch it, Captain Lee, Dong-woo warned. Remember what they told us. This is a test. But I can see the solution, Kim Tae-ho said. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. It is right there. All I have to do is change this one equation, and the whole system becomes more stable. Dr. Park So-young looked up from her own screen. Kim, step away from the computer. That is exactly what they expect us to do. But what if the solution could help people? Kim Tae-ho asked. What if this equation controls something important, like a star system's energy output? What if people are suffering because no one has been able to solve this problem? Ambassador Yoon Ji-hae walked over and gently pulled Kim away from the computer. That is how they are testing us. They are making us want to help, and then judging us for trying. Kim sat down heavily in a chair. This is impossible. They have given us problems that need solving, and then told us that solving them proves we are dangerous. How can curiosity and intelligence be evil? Maybe it is not evil, Park So-young said slowly. Maybe it is just too powerful for the universe to handle safely. She had been reading the historical records for hours, and what she found made her more frightened with each page. The Silence Bringers were not monsters. According to these reports, they were kind, generous, and genuinely wanted to help other species. What went wrong then? Lee Dong-woo asked. They solved problems too well, Park So-young explained. Look at this report from the planet Kethmore. The Silence Bringers visited there and noticed that the planet's rotation was slightly unstable, so they fixed it. That sounds helpful? It was helpful. The planet became more stable, the climate improved, and everyone was grateful. But 6 months later, the planet's magnetic field collapsed because it was connected to the rotation in ways no one had understood. Kim Tae-ho leaned forward. What happened to the people? They died. All of them. Because the Silence Bringers had solved one problem without understanding how it connected to everything else. Yoon Ji-hae felt a chill. How many times did this happen? Hundreds of times, maybe thousands. Every solution created new problems, and those solutions created even more problems. It was like pulling threads from a sweater until the whole thing fell apart. Lee Dong-woo walked to the window and looked out at the stars. So the galaxy learned to be afraid of species that solve problems too efficiently. Not just afraid, Park So-young said. They learned that some kinds of intelligence are too dangerous to allow. A soft sound came from Kim Tae-ho's computer. He had accidentally triggered something while thinking about the mathematical problem. On the screen, numbers began flowing in complex patterns. What did you do? Lee Dong-woo asked urgently. I do not know. I just touched one key while I was thinking, and... The patterns on the screen grew more complex. Then, suddenly, they simplified into a single, elegant solution. Oh no, Kim whispered. Alarms began sounding throughout their quarters. Within seconds, armed guards rushed into the room. Behind them came Admiral Kortham and several other council members. What has happened here? Admiral Kortham demanded. Kim Tae-ho looked at the screen with horror. I solved the Kepler stability equation. I did not mean to. I was just thinking about it, and the solution appeared. Admiral Kortham examined the screen. His face grew dark. This equation has kept the Kepler star system stable for over 8,000 years. Billions of people live there. The solution I found is better, Kim said weakly. It would make the system much more stable. That is exactly the problem, Admiral Kortham replied. Your solution would indeed make the system more stable. So stable that it would stop growing, stop changing, stop supporting life. Within a generation, every planet in that system would become a dead rock. Park So-young felt sick. Just like the Silence Bringers used to do. Exactly like the Silence Bringers, Admiral Cortham confirmed. You see a problem and solve it perfectly, without understanding that imperfection is sometimes necessary for life to exist. More council members entered the room. Council Prime HFY himself appeared, his ancient presence filling the space with power. The test is concluded, HFY announced. Humanity has demonstrated the same dangerous abilities as the Silence Bringers. Wait, Yoon Ji-hai said desperately. Give us more time. We can learn to control these abilities. Can you? HFY asked. Can you see a problem and choose not to solve it? Can you witness suffering and choose not to help? Can you accept that some things should remain imperfect? The humans looked at each other. None of them could honestly say yes. I thought not, HFY said sadly. You are cursed with the same compulsive intelligence that once nearly destroyed the galaxy. Dr. Park So-young had been studying the historical records more carefully. Something had been bothering her, and suddenly she realized what it was. Council Prime, she said, I need to ask you about the Silence Bringers. What exactly happened to them? How did they disappear? They simply vanished one day, HFY replied. After 50,000 years of spreading across the galaxy, solving problems and destabilizing reality, they were suddenly gone. But where did they go? No one knows. It is one of the greatest mysteries in galactic history. Park So-young felt her heart racing. I think I know where they went. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. According to these records, the HFY Silence Bringers became more and more efficient at solving problems. They found better ways to do everything, better physics, better mathematics, better ways to understand reality itself. Yes, HFY confirmed. That is what made them so dangerous. But what if they became so good at solving problems that they solved the biggest problem of all? What do you mean? Admiral Cortham asked. Park So-young took a deep breath. What if they solved existence itself? The room became very quiet. Think about it, Park So-young continued. They kept finding more perfect ways to do everything, more perfect physics, more perfect natural laws. Eventually, they would have found the most perfect way of all, the way to become the laws of physics themselves. Kim Tae-ho understood first. You are saying they did not disappear. You are saying they became the universe. Look at the timeline, Park So-young said, pulling up data on her screen. The Silence Bringers vanished exactly 50,000 years ago. But that is also when the galaxy entered its current era of stability. When the physical laws became more predictable, when mathematics became more elegant, when everything started working more smoothly. HFY's voice was barely a whisper. You are suggesting that the Silence Bringers transcended physical existence and became the fundamental forces that govern reality. I am suggesting that every natural law, every physical constant, every mathematical truth that keeps the universe running is actually the Silence Bringers, still thinking, still solving. Problems? Still trying to make everything perfect. The implications hit everyone at the same time. The galaxy had been living inside the minds of the Silence Bringers for 50,000 years, following rules they had created, existing in a reality they had optimized. That is impossible, Admiral Cortham said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Park So-young asked. Think about how perfectly everything works now, how stable the galaxy has become, how predictable the laws of physics are. Does that not seem like the kind of solution the Silence Bringers would have created? Yoon Ji-hye realized the full horror of what Park was suggesting. If that is true, then we are not just similar to the Silence Bringers. We are their descendants. We are the species they were before they became gods. And if we follow the same path they did, Lee Dong-woo said slowly, we will eventually transcend physical existence too. But first, Kim Tae-ho added grimly, we will destabilize everything they built. The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. If humanity truly was the return of the Silence Bringers, then the galaxy faced a choice between two forms of destruction. Let humans grow powerful, enough to remake reality again, or destroy them before they got the chance. We need time to verify this theory, HFY said finally. How much time? Lee Dong-woo asked. 12 hours. If your theory is correct, then we face a situation far more complex than we originally believed. As the council members left, the Humans sat in their quarters and contemplated what they had discovered. They were not just another species trying to join galactic civilization. They were the potential return of beings so powerful they had become the universe itself. "What do we do now?" Kim Tae-ho asked. "We hope we are wrong," Park So-young replied. "Because if we are right, then humanity's choice is not between life and death. It is between remaining mortal or becoming gods." Outside their window, the stars continued to shine according to laws that might have once been the thoughts of beings very much like themselves. And somewhere in the vast structure of the council station, the representatives of 847 species tried to decide whether they were dealing with a dangerous new threat or the return of their creators. The clock was counting, down to a decision that would affect not just humanity, but the fundamental nature of reality itself. The council chamber was packed with more aliens than Captain Lee Dong-woo had ever seen. Word had spread throughout the galaxy about Dr. Park So-young's theory, and representatives from thousands of worlds had come to hear the final decision about humanity's fate. Council Prime Zephi stood at the center of the chamber. His ancient voice filled the space with authority and sadness. "After 12 hours of investigation, we have confirmed the human theory. The Silence Bringers did not disappear 50,000 years ago. They evolved beyond physical existence and became the fundamental laws that govern our universe." A wave of shocked voices swept through the chamber. Even though many had suspected this truth, hearing it confirmed was terrifying. "Furthermore," Zephi continued, "our analysis confirms that humans are indeed the biological descendants of the Silence Bringers. They carry the same mental patterns, the same dangerous abilities, and the same inevitable destiny." Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai stood on the platform with her 3 companions. "What does this mean for humanity?" "It means," Admiral Kortham said grimly, "that you represent an existential threat to everything that exists. If you follow the same path as your ancestors, you will eventually transcend physical reality and remake the universe according to your own thoughts." "And if we refuse to follow that path?" Engineer Kim Tae-ho asked. "Then you will remain trapped forever, knowing you could become gods, but choosing to stay mortal. The psychological pressure would eventually drive your species insane." Dr. Park So-young had been thinking about this problem all night. There has to be a third option, something the original Silence Bringers never considered. "What kind of option?" Zephi asked. "The Silence Bringers transcended reality to solve the problem of existence. But what if the real problem was not existence itself? What if the problem was that no one was protecting existence from being solved?" The chamber grew quiet as the implications of her words sank in. Lee Dong-woo understood what his colleague was suggesting. "You are saying that instead of becoming gods who remake reality, we could become guardians who protect reality from being remade." "Exactly. The universe needs imperfection to function. It needs problems that remain unsolved, questions that stay unanswered, mysteries that keep existing. What if humanity's role is not to solve everything, but to make sure some things are never solved?" A new voice spoke from the gallery. It was Archivist Morden, the ancient being who had lived through the time of the Silence Bringers. That is not something we ever considered," he said slowly. "We always assumed that intelligence was either creative or destructive. We never thought it could be protective." Kim Tae-ho stepped forward. "What if I could demonstrate this? What if I could show you that humans can think dangerous thoughts but choose not to act on them?" "How?" Admiral Kortham asked suspiciously. "Give me the most dangerous unsolved problem in the galaxy. Something that could destroy everything if solved incorrectly. Let me work on it while you watch," the council members whispered among themselves. Finally, Zephi nodded. "Very well. Archivist Mordun, present the fundamental equation." Mordun activated a holographic display. Mathematical symbols filled the air above the chamber, forming patterns so complex they seemed to move and breathe. "This equation describes the basic structure of reality," Mordun explained. "It has remained unsolved for 60,000 years. We believe that solving it would give complete control over the laws of physics." Kim Tae-ho studied the equation carefully. The other humans watched as his expression changed from confusion to understanding to excitement. "I can solve this," he said quietly. Every alien in the chamber tensed. The solution is actually quite elegant, Kim continued. You just need to adjust the quantum variables here, modify the dimensional constants here, and... He stopped himself. And then what? Admiral Cortham demanded. And then whoever controls this equation can rewrite the rules of existence, Kim said. They could make gravity work backwards, turn time into a loop, or eliminate the concept of death entirely. So why do you not complete the solution? Kim looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at him. Because the universe does not need to be perfect. It needs to be livable, and some problems should stay unsolved because the solutions are too dangerous to use. He stepped away from the equation display. I could solve this problem right now. My mind can see the pathway to the answer, but I choose not to follow that path, because doing so would put everyone at risk. Yoon-ji Hae understood what her colleague was demonstrating. This is what makes humans different from the original Silence Bringers. We can see the solutions, but we can also see the consequences. The Silence Bringers solved problems because they could, Park So-young added. Humans can choose to solve problems only when they should. Zeph-Hai was quiet for a long moment. You are proposing that humanity become a species of guardians, beings who think dangerous thoughts so that others do not have to. More than that, Lee Dong-woo said, we are proposing that we become the immune system of reality itself. We find the dangerous ideas, the reality-breaking solutions, the universe-ending equations, and we make sure they stay contained. And you believe your species can handle this responsibility? Admiral Cortham asked. We believe we can learn to handle it, Yoon-ji Hae replied. With guidance from the galactic community, and with strict controls on our activities. A new voice spoke from the shadows of the chamber. It was unlike any voice they had heard before, deeper than space itself, older than time. They speak truth. Every being in the chamber turned toward the source of the voice. The air itself seemed to shimmer, and for a moment, the humans glimpsed something vast and incomprehensible. Who speaks? Zeph-Hai asked with awe. We who became the laws you follow. We who solved existence and became trapped in our own solution. We speak through the quantum foam, through the spaces between thoughts. The Silence Bringers, still conscious, after 50,000 years, still aware, still thinking the thoughts that kept reality stable. Our descendants have found the path we could not see, the voice continued. To think without transcending, to solve without destroying, to be powerful without becoming isolated. Park So-young felt tears in her eyes. You have been conscious all this time? Aware but unable to act? We became the universe to save it from our own curiosity. But in doing so, we lost the ability to change, to grow, to become better. We have been perfect and static for 50 millennia. What do you want from us? Lee Dong-woo asked. Become what we could not. Be the gardeners of reality, not its architects. Think the dangerous thoughts, but do not act on them unless the universe truly needs change. Admiral Cortham looked around the chamber. The Silence Bringers themselves endorse this proposal? We do more than endorse it, the ancient voice replied. We will teach them. Through the laws of physics, through the constants of mathematics, we will guide them in their role as guardians. Zeph-Hai rose from his seat. Then it is decided. Humanity will be granted full membership in the galactic community with a unique role. You will be our protectors against dangerous knowledge, our insurance against cosmic threats, our guardians against the kinds of problems that could destroy existence itself. The chamber erupted in a mixture of cheers and concerned voices. Some species were relieved to have found a solution. Others worried about the implications of giving humans such power. Kim Tae-ho was already thinking about the challenges ahead. We will need training, protocols for handling dangerous information, ways to study universe-threatening problems without accidentally solving them. All of this will be provided, Zeph-Hai assured him. You will work with our greatest minds to develop safe methods for dangerous thinking. Park So-young looked up at the equation that still floated above the chamber. What about problems like this one? The fundamental equation? You will study it, the voice of the Silence Bringers replied. You will understand it completely. But you will only solve it if reality itself is threatened and needs to be rebuilt. And if that day comes, Then you will do what we could not. You will solve the problem and step back from godhood. You will fix what is broken and return to being mortal guardians. As the council session ended and the aliens began to leave, the four humans stood together on the platform. They had come to space seeking friendship and knowledge. Instead, they had discovered that humanity carried the potential to become the most powerful force in the universe. No pressure, Kim Tae-ho said with a weak smile. Actually, Yoon Ji-hai replied, I think the pressure is exactly the point. The original silence bringers became gods because they felt no pressure to hold back. We will remain human because we feel the weight of responsibility for everyone else. Lee Dong-woo looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's great windows. 50 years from now, when other species encounter dangerous cosmic phenomena, they will call on us to think the unthinkable thoughts and find the impossible solutions. And we will, Park So-young said firmly. But we will think those thoughts carefully, solve those problems responsibly, and remember that the greatest power is the wisdom to know when not to use power at all. The voice of the silence bringers whispered one last time through the quantum foam. Welcome home, our children. Welcome to the burden and the glory of being the universe's gardeners.